Hey guys, before we get started, I've got a quick favor to ask. I need you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast if you feel you're getting value from it. That's how we're going to get these conversations in front of more people. And just as important, if not more important, is your feedback. The good, the bad, the ugly. I want the critical information on how we can make this podcast better for you and deliver value every time. And if you know somebody in Louisiana who's doing big things in their field, industry, or business, please drop their name in the comments. We'd love to have the opportunity to bring them on the show. At the end of the day, this is all about the youth of Louisiana and putting local leaders in front of them and giving them something real to learn from. Now let's get it. What's up, everybody? It's your host for the For Profit Podcast, Matthew Pierce, and I am delighted to have these two guests of honor here today. They were an integral part of my Ironman journey in 2024. They've become close friends. I cannot sing their praises enough. I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Kyle Bramley, physical therapist at Oxner Elite off of Burbank, and my main man, Mr. Dustin Drews of Deviate Fitness and Physical Therapy out of Ponchatoula. So we're going to get into a little bit of these guys' backgrounds, who they are, where they're from, what motivates them, and why it is they do what they do. So why don't you start things off, Kyle? Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you come from.
Okay. I don't know how far back you want to go or how you want to spin this tale, but I'm Kyle Bramley. I'm a physical therapist, like Matt said. I think kind of my journey to the point that I'm at right now started probably in high school. I think as a junior high kid, right before I got into high school, I wanted to be a runner, but I wasn't very fast. And so I tried out for the track team. I got on as kind of a backup kid, so I ran odds and ends type of stuff, and I tried track as a freshman in high school. Wasn't super successful. The one race I ran, I came in like third to last place, and that was pretty much my sign that like, okay, I need to figure out something else. So in high school, I did odds and ends. I was more into music, actually. I was a band kid, and I was pretty competitive with that, and I really tried to do well with that. But then later on in high school, I got interested in running again, and we talked about Dustin's barefoot shoes. I really got interested in kind of barefoot running, minimalist running, things like this. And with that, there's kind of a sports science side to that I got really interested in. And in college, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my career, I just kept going back to this. Man, I was obsessed with shoes. I was obsessed with running. I got into some trail running, some ultra running, all this type of stuff. And I decided that like, hey, if this is something that I'm really this interested in, I should probably consider making this my career. And then fast forward, I got my degree in biology from LSU. I applied to graduate school at LSU, and I got into LSU New Orleans for PT school. Did my training there, and then, over the course of the past 7 years, I've been a PT. My career's taken me here and there and everywhere, and at this point, I'm fortunate. I work at a great facility where I can really lean into my practice and make my practice what I want it to be. I'm fortunate I worked with LSU's track team as one of their team PTs, which has been a really cool experience. I help with some education stuff at Oshner. We have a residency for sports and orthopedic residents that I'm faculty for. So anyways, there's a lot in there. It's been a wild ride, but I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at right now.
Absolutely. Now follow that up, Mr. Dustin Drews.
It's very hard to follow. I have a somewhat similar story as Kyle as far as getting inspired early. Out of high school, I was headed to LSU and got my first road bike, and kind of, through the internet, just kind of discovered that there were all these cycling clubs and local bike races. I didn't even know that, bike races were even a thing, besides the Tour.
So what?
The Tour de France.
Tour de France.
So within like a couple weeks of getting my first road bike, like before I was headed to college, I signed up for a bike race without knowing anything about bike racing whatsoever.
And you were a traditional athlete in high school. You played some
so
football.
I played football. I ran track and field. I did more sprint work in track.
Oh, no way.
So I didn't have a background in endurance at that point.
Yeah.
So my first race, I was 18 at the time, so they put me with the juniors, like these little 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds, and the women. And say it was a field of maybe like 30. And we take off. It's a 32-mile race. I'm dropped within 5 miles, and
those of you who don't know what dropped is, that means you cannot hang with the big dogs.
I could not hang. I could not hang with the women and juniors.
Yeah.
And rode the whole rest of that race by myself. But I finished, and as terribly as that went, I was super inspired, and from that moment knew that this is the sport that I have been waiting for my whole life. And from there, I went to LSU, got with a couple guys there that were also interested in cycling. We started a cycling team, so we got a big group, like 20, 25 riders together.
What year was this at LSU?
This was 2009.
And so they had not had a club cycling team.
There was no cycling team.
Literally formed.
They had a triathlon team. And we started hanging out with the triathletes because you could find people that were riding bikes. And then eventually, enough of us were on the triathlon team and figured out, like, we don't actually want to do triathlon. We just want to ride bikes with people. So we formed our own team out of that. And then collegiate cycling is a thing. So there's competition that we were traveling to. Like, we were traveling to Austin. We were traveling to College Station, go race at Texas A&M. So we were doing collegiate bike racing at that time. So anyway, so the other part of that is I was studying kinesiology at the same time at LSU and studying exercise science. So a lot of things just kind of started coming together for me because I was getting into this endurance sport, just kind of learning the hard way, about nutrition and recovery and training load and all this stuff. And then I was learning exercise science at the same time, and I was directly applying a lot of that stuff to the sport that I was, kind of starting to really have a love for. So anyway, so I ended up, finishing my bachelor's in kinesiology. I stayed for a master's in exercise physiology. Around that time, I started coaching cycling and coaching endurance sports. And then that's also when I started working with Will Jones with Fourth Dimension Fitness as a mentor who was already kind of in that space as a endurance sport coach, and then also, a really high level strength and conditioning coach that had worked with LSU football. And, he kind of took me under his wing. I actually did an internship with him for school credit, started coaching my own athletes, and just kind of started learning more about how that could be formed into a career that's maybe a little non-traditional. And then started kind of doing that and teaching out of school, and then eventually went back to school for physical therapy. So I'm a physical therapist as well now. And nowadays I kind of do a little bit of everything. So the company that I started, Deviate, provides physical therapy and coaching and bike fitting and run analysis. So now what I do is with Deviate, I just find all kinds of ways to support endurance athletes, either from a performance standpoint or rehab. And then I'm still very much an active triathlete and cyclist still today.
Yeah, I definitely, I mentioned it earlier, you definitely practice what you preach. When I was seeking out someone to take me on this journey, on this ride of, attempting an Ironman, a full Ironman, right? You got to finish the race to become an Ironman. I needed a guide. I needed somebody who had done and gone it before me. I wanted somebody who was high level. Somebody who had experience, not just, someone who looked the part, but, walked it, talked it, everything. And I think I found you through the Ironman website. For some reason, I couldn't contact you. I tried multiple times to get your email from the website, and I said, this guy's got to be on social media. If he's doing this stuff, he's got to have a following. And I remember talking to you around Thanksgiving of 2023 to see if it was possible. And then that's kind of where we hit things off, and I decided, hey, this is going to be the guy for me to guide me along this journey. And Kyle, I've known you since my hip rehab, since that surgery back in 2019. I think I met you through rehab with Patrick Cook.
Yeah, for sure.
It was Patrick Cook back at the other place, we'll call it.
Yeah.
The other rehab place. We're no longer there. We're at Oxnard. That's where we go. But it was during that time where I was looking to get back into athletics. I'm a part of a club here in Baton Rouge Ancient Athletes. I was not able to return to my sport with the level of fitness that I had expected that the surgeon had led me to believe I would be able to obtain. And then when I found you guys, Dr. Cook and yourself and my boy Luke, that that was history,
Dude,
back in 2020.
Can I just say the first memory I have of Matt Pierce was Matt Pierce laying on a table, sweating like a dog. I think it was either Patrick or it was Marissa just aced him in the heck out of your calves. I think it might have been Marissa.
Yes.
You remember that?
I do remember that. With the metal tool, my Achilles, like, because we were working on, like, ankle flexibility, dorsiflexion, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Attacking it from, like, every angle. I was doing the hip mob with the bands on the front of the ankle, trying to loosen up the Achilles to, get that knee farther over the toe. Yeah, that.
And I'm sorry to say we're still fighting that battle today.
I was in PT the other day, and he's like, this girl who's an understudy is.
She's a student, yeah.
She's a student. So he's like, yeah, check his ankles. His ankles are stiff. His ankles are usually stiff. Never mind, they're always stiff. So no, I want to kind of go back to each of you, like early on. I know you said you had participated in high school track, and then you became obsessed with the barefoot running and the physiology of it all. What other things have you been obsessed with? Like, what is it about physical therapy, the body, the anatomy, and figuring out how it all works together? Like, why do you think that hit for you?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I don't know if I 100% know the answer to that. I think it's probably a crossroads of a lot of different things. Just to talk about obsession in general, I think if I think back to when I was a kid, and even today, like, maybe this is common for everyone or maybe it's a unique thing, but if I latch my teeth into some kind of hobby or some kind of, like, I'm looking into something, or, even when it comes to just like trying to buy something on Amazon, I'm like reading all the reviews to make sure that I I go into like some kind of savant mode with that type of stuff. But I think there's a level of when I latch into certain things, I really focus on it. And the cool thing about the barefoot running was I think I've always been interested by the more technical side of scientific things and figuring things out. And so I thought I wanted to be an engineer, and that's where I started school at LSU, was as an engineering student. And just something about the process of engineering. We had this class that I just really hated the class. We were collaborating with other students. The class was we were doing a cool project working on building a playground for or designing a playground for this school. But for one reason or another, the class was just miserable, and I really didn't like that. But to get back to the barefoot running thing, is like there's this technical side that brings. There's, I just like the shoes. I like to try the different shoes and try to learn, like, what was the best shoe for whatever reason. Why was this one better than the other ones? And then you layer in. I wasn't a good runner for a long time, but some of my earliest memories of running, one of my aunts, my Aunt Dawn.
This is a guy who at 30 years old just ran sub-5 in a mile.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm much faster now than I was in high school. So for some reason, I think maybe I just might have finished puberty or something like that.
Tendon stiffness.
Yeah.
Tendon stiffness.
Okay, yeah, that's probably.
He knows the answer.
Well, anyways, so in high school I wasn't a good runner, but I remember I had opportunities occasionally to go out and go run, and in Boy Scouts we had to run a mile for like a physical fitness test, and I always felt like I liked that if I just worked hard, I could, just work through the pain and kind of beat everyone else, and that really felt good. And so I always liked the idea of, like, if I just work hard enough, I can run this fast, I can get better, I can improve, and I can do all this type of stuff. So
and you've definitely taken that to your practice and in how you go about that improvement with your, continued education.
Yeah, honestly, I do think that a big component of just my arc has been somewhat of, some kind of competitiveness and trying to keep up with the Joneses and not trying to be outpaced and all that type of stuff. And maybe it's unhealthy, maybe it's healthy. It's fun. I will say
it helps me with my recovery, rehab, prehab.
Yeah,
get me prepared for races.
I think I look at my life today, and these days I try to work out every day that I can, and it's not 7 days a week, but usually it's at least most of the days out of the week. And I will say that a big part of that, not to make your head any bigger than it is, Matt, is I had Matt Pierce on the table talking about training for an Ironman, talking about all these workouts he's doing and all this type of stuff. And he was showing me some of his runs, his Happy's 5Ks. He's dropping, 7 whatever miles at the Happy's 5K. And I'm like, shoot, I don't know if I can still run that fast. And I was like, hold on, let me go
got
try to
that
run some
itch.
5Ks and see if I can still run that fast.
We definitely pushed each other during that year. I mean, you were a big part of helping. I was explaining to Dustin where early on in my training I had some weight on me and we couldn't figure out like why I was having certain hip pains. I mean, he couldn't be with me all the time living in Ponchatoula. And we discovered through talking with you, it was like a cadence issue and the ground contact time and staying too long in that step and too much pounding. And it was because of your background with the ultra running. Like you were able to give me the insight, and it was unique. I mean, I don't think any other physical therapist would have been able to give me that insight because they hadn't had that experience. And I know you love the data that I was providing from those workouts. And so I'm just glad it led you to running a sub 5 at 30 years old. Like, God dang, dude, that's cooking. For
That's
those
really
of you who
solid.
don't know, go out and try to run
Yeah.
less than a 6-minute mile. You can't.
Yeah, no, that's really impressive.
Yeah. So Dustin, I know you talked about you found cycling through LSU, signed up for a race, whatever. Just baptism by fire. What I want to go back to Will Jones because somebody we both know. Talk about the things that you learned during that time working with him and working with athletes.
So, yeah, if I go back to that time, kind of when I was doing the internship with 4D, and I still work with 4D, I'm someone that has always been driven by exploration, and I was kind of one of those kids in school where like I never really had to study that much. I admittedly did not have a really good work ethic at that time, and Will is someone who comes from, LSU football and discipline and really, really, high work ethic and just, he
was a college football player himself.
And he was a college football player,
Northwestern.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was something that I guess drew me to him, which was, one, people being in spaces that you want to be in, but then also someone who carries traits that it's something that you're trying to work on, you're trying to aspire to. So, I'd say like that's probably number one at the top of like what I learned from him is, the value of discipline and the things that you can achieve if you have self-discipline. And, nobody's gonna wake you up in the morning and tell you go do your workout, and Will was coaching me I mean, I don't think I did a workout that Will gave me like first 2 years that he coached me, and we would get into it, for not doing my workouts. And eventually I, started improving in my self-discipline, started doing my workouts, and, lo and behold, I got better. Like, imagine that, and discipline is something that I've continued to work on. I'm not just naturally don't want to work hard. I mean, if Kyle over here is, I just want to outwork everybody and work harder, my mantra is more like work smarter, right?
No, I'm saying I'd like to
Dustin
win.
hopes his natural talent will get him across the finish line.
That's right.
If the camera could zoom in on his calves right now, this dude has superhero calves, and his work ethic, he does not deserve them. But
That's right.
He has work ethic. I mean, you just come off of a Ironman World Championship,
Yes.
70.3. So
Yes.
he works hard.
I've had to work hard to learn how to work hard, if that makes sense, right? Over the last 20 years. And I'm proud of where I've come, but then, it's still every single day is a struggle to, be disciplined and do what I need to do when there's nobody right on top of me telling me, hey, you got to go do all these things. But, a big part of cycling and kind of what motivates me with cycling is you kind of get this work smarter, not harder, because cycling is a sport. Bike racing is a sport of efficiency. And laziness.
Watts
in a way,
per kilo.
right?
Watts per kilo.
The guy, most of the time the person who does the least amount of work in the race is the one who's going to win.
Yeah.
You know, in running and triathlon, there's kind of a one-to-one relationship between the person putting out the most power and doing the most work out on course is probably going to be the person who's going to win or is going to finish up there. Cycling's not like that. Cycling is a chess match on wheels where it's equal sides, fitness and strategy. And what drew me into cycling was I could, you know, strategically position myself to not have to train as hard and still get really good results or win. And, you know, that got me pretty far and it was really enjoyable. But then eventually I got to a point where I hit this just ceiling where I just stopped getting better. And again, this is around the time I kind of started working with Will and started listening to him more, you know, implementing discipline and doing my workouts. Well, now I knew the strategy side of cycling, and then my fitness greatly improved once I started training better and being more disciplined. So, yeah.
All right. Kyle, he mentioned one of his mentors being Will Jones, someone who we mutually know. Think back to your early years, whether it was college, high school, or even in your practice today. Who are some of the people who have helped mold you?
Yeah, I think one of the early mentors that I had that I think back to was a guy named Dr. Ryan Green. He's a professor now at Southeastern. I think now he's the head of the athletic training department. But at the time, he was the manager of varsity sports in Mandeville. And it's funny, I kind of reflect back too, Dustin. I think I look around at some of my coworkers and I'm like, man, this guy's taking life by the horns and just kind of making life how he wants it to be. I think in some ways I kind of go with the flow, and wherever I end up, I'm going to make the best at that spot. But it's been a lot of kind of going with the flow. Well, the point being is my senior year, you know, going back to the minimalist running shoes, I had to do a research project, and I decided to do it on minimalist running, and I had to find a community mentor. And so if you've ever read the book Born to Run, you ever read that?
It's on the list.
Okay, you should read that. You ever read that book?
No.
Oh man, that's my
Born
that's
to
my
Run.
Born to Run. That's my origin story right there. But there's this guy named Barefoot Ted, and Barefoot Ted is just this kind of wacky character in the story. But he owns a shoe company. It's a sandal, they make these sandals that you can run in called Luna sandals. And I emailed Barefoot Ted a few weeks before the deadline that I had to find my mentor because I wanted Barefoot Ted to be my mentor because I just thought it'd be super fun. Well, he doesn't email me until like a couple of days before. So it's like the day before I have to put on paper who my community mentor is going to be. So I'm like, well, shoot. And then I thought back, Varsity Sports, their running shoe store. I've been to Varsity Sports before. It seems like they know what they're talking about when they talk about shoes. So I looked on their website and I just saw, I was like, I'll just find a manager, I guess. And so I looked at the managers and I was like, oh, this guy's got a PhD. I need to talk to this guy. So I reached out to Ryan Green, and almost immediately he emailed me back, and he was super into the idea. And so anyways, fast forward, I ended up scheduling an interview with him. And this he's got a PhD in biomechanics. He's all into barefoot running, minimalist running. He knows what the heck he's talking about. He's all in the shoe business, which I was really kind of interested in, kind of the shoe and that side of things. And so I got to know him. I interviewed him. He gave me a lot of stuff on my project, and he was just a really cool guy to talk to. Well, then when I was in college, there was a couple of times that I just poked my head into Varsity Sports, and I said hello and I talked to him. Well, when I was going towards grad school, I went to Varsity Sports, was talking to Ryan. I was telling him I was going to school for physical therapy, but I had a semester off. And he's like, hey, do you want a job here? And I was, yeah, that sounds good. So I was working at a physical therapy clinic as a technician, but, you know.
Is that when you were at the other place? Were you, or you already?
This is right after undergrad. This is before grad school or any of that type of stuff. But anyways, he offered me a job to work at this Varsity Sports just to sell shoes, which I still to this day is my favorite job ever. Selling shoes at Varsity Sports is the best. We got free lunch on Saturdays. We'd just get like a sloppy cheeseburger with French. It was awesome. Just hanging around with runners and that type of stuff. But anyways, this guy, the entire time, Ryan Green, he was managing Varsity Sports. He was an associate professor, or he was kind of an adjunct professor type at Southeastern at the time. And he was just walking the walk. And I just always thought that he was impressive in his knowledge and all that. He's a great friend. he was a great friend to me. Even to this day, I've hung out with him in the past year, and we just hit it off. He's a playful guy. I think in a lot of ways he inspires me in the fact that we have a lot of the same interests, but also just in the fact that like he's loving life. He's living life. He's just enjoying learning about different things. He enjoys diving into research, learning about different things. He enjoys whatever. He's just it seems like one of the big things that he tries to incorporate into his life is play. And so I've always respected that. And then I just want to call out a couple more people. So in my career in physical therapy, Patrick Cook, who was your PT.
My boy, yes.
Yeah, Patrick Cook. I was very fortunate that for one of my internships whenever I was in PT school, Patrick Cook was my clinical instructor. So he was in the clinic working. I was under him, working alongside him. And Patrick Cook is described by some of the faculty at my school. They said, "Ooh, he's an intense guy. You're going to have, it's going to be interesting." And he's definitely intense. For some reason, I don't think it's, well-deserved, in my opinion. Patrick seemed to take a liking to me, so he really invested a lot into me, into that rotation. He offered me a job at his clinic. And I tried to turn the job down because I was trying to do a different educational program. But eventually I was like, yeah, fine, I'll take it.
Yeah, he does.
I tried to turn the job down.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to find a different route. But anyways, Patrick, he at some point he was the chairman of the PT board for Louisiana, so he's been really involved professionally in physical therapy. He's a go-getter. He's one of the original like specialist PTs in Louisiana. Yeah. Highly specialized. He's very well known. Anyways, but he kind of took me under his wing, and still to this day, a lot of the how I'm doing the things that I'm doing is because I've been in the slipstring of Patrick Cook.
Absolutely.
So,
and that man ran a hell of a clinic, boy. He had that clinic set up right, the other place, and now he's at Ochsner. So, I love hearing about the people that shape us. Like, I've talked on this podcast with other guests about the mentors I've had, and I believe that's important when you're young and you're developing and you're trying to find a path to get somebody who's aligned in what you want to do, who's, walking the walk, talking the talk, not a guru, but a duru, right? Somebody who's doing it. So that's just so very important. I don't think anybody can accomplish anything great without the help of others, There's a thing that I say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's just something I've always understood. I like to be coached. I like to work with the best. If it's something that means something to me, I want the best. I want to work with the best. I don't like crappy equipment. I don't like crappy coaching. I don't, that's why I'm at Ochsner, the facilities, everything that's provided. Dustin, with his background in triathlon and sport, lifting, from crafting workouts for swimming, running, cycling, the lifts that complement his understanding of the human body, like you, from that physical therapy background, it was just like a match made in heaven. And I don't know. I think it's important for just the next person, the next generation, whether it's business, you're aspiring to be an entrepreneur, to go into a field like physical therapy where you're an employee, just to find those who are doing things at a high clip and doing very well and aspire to be like them. Dustin, let's talk a little bit about your coaching business. What does that look like today? I mean, I know you've got the new space now, and it's really going to explode, but let's...
So, the coaching side of things, I've got a roster of athletes. Deviate's kind of like the official coaching partner of 4D Racing. And, as far as coaching goes, I work with triathletes, I work with runners. I've got a guy right now who I'm coaching to do international and national fly fishing.
No way.
Where he's training to go get dropped from a helicopter in South America into the mountains so he can go catch this fish.
What you know about fly fishing?
I do not know a lot about fly fishing, but I don't have to, which is kind of the nice part about the endurance coaching formula or format or
he's going to have to traverse terrain.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The approach to coaching. I mean, obviously, I coach cycling and I coach the sports that I've participated in, but I don't think and that helps us stay connected with the people that we work with. A physical therapist who's treating runners, who runs, like, that's important. Like you've said, that keeps you connected to the sport that you're trying to, coach. But ultimately, all you've got to do to help someone take on, some sort of task is to just start with the demands of the task. What are they trying to do? This guy wants to go fly fishing across the world. What does that involve? Well, we've got to ruck across uneven terrain, through the mountains, uphill, downhill. Obviously, there's a lot of upper body stuff with that. You got to stand in moving water on uneven ground and waders, and that there's a movement demand for that you have to train for. So you just kind of walk your way back of like, all right, well, let's start with the demands of the race. I mean, we do it the same with the Ironman. What's the demand? What do I got to do for an Ironman, right? You got to swim really long, you got to bike really long, you got to run really long. And you just work your way back, like, okay, and then what's the gap between where you're at today and what are the demands of the things that you're trying to do? And, how can you close that gap? And how much time have you given yourself to close that gap, right? If you're trying to do an Ironman in 6 months and you haven't,
or 10 months,
or 10 or 10 months, and you haven't ridden, or
40 pounds overweight.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, who sometimes don't give themselves enough time to do the thing that they're trying to do, or don't have this understanding of, or awareness of the gap. They just don't know what they don't know. They don't realize how hard the demands of the thing that they want to sign up for are. So as a coach, it's kind of my job to communicate with the athlete, like, hey, this is what you're actually trying to do, if it's something that they've never done before. And then just kind of write out a plan. Give them a roadmap of like, hey, this is what we're gonna.
Your approach was so interesting to me, and what really sold me were those phone conversations. Kyle, he never hyped me up on, you're gonna do an Ironman, this is gonna be so bad. I was like, you're gonna be a legend. Like, it was nothing like that. It was exactly what he said. Like, let's talk about what you're getting yourself into. You're married, you got a kid, you got relationships you got to keep up. This is gonna take a lot of your time. Like, he was just so brutally honest, and never ever too high or too low throughout any of the process. And I was trying to do it in 10 months. I mean, we had spoken in November, but I didn't get to training until like that January. I got a bike, and
we can say now that I was very skeptical.
Yeah. So I tell him, I wanna
we
do a
can
full
say that
Ironman
now.
in 10 months. And the only thing he knows about me is this guy was a college football player, and we about to find out. Like,
yeah.
But he never showed that. He was patient with me. We went through the process. He kept adding more to my plate, and there were times, I think, in that first month or two, I couldn't run for like 2 weeks. I was having bad hip pain. I had to come to you, and that's when I realized, oh, this is going to take a village. I hired a dietitian about 3 months in. I had you as the Ironman coach for my workouts and teaching me all of the things, and then I had you for rehab and prehab. I mean, we checked in probably every week in 2024 on Mondays.
You essentially had a second coach.
Yeah. I'd do long swim Friday, long bike Saturday, long run Sunday, and long PT session with Kyle on Monday. Like, let's figure out what happened. What are we going to try to prevent this week? Because I had workouts all throughout the week, But getting back to, like, your process, like, I don't know, it was just so genuine. And the things you told me I was going to learn about myself during the process, and it couldn't be about ego to do this. Like, you were so realistic. And I think more coaches need to be like that versus selling the end result, I mean, you just helped me so much with mindset and everything.
Yeah, by the way, I want to say that I think there's a lot more physical therapists that need to think like that too. Is I feel like a lot of times I get to do a lot of mentorship with some young physical therapists through this residency program. And a lot of times, we try to do our best to boil things down like, hey, let's get back to what are the primary principles that we're dealing with here? Is it a mobility problem? Is it a whatever problem? And even though I think in physical therapy, we do a pretty good job with some of, what people are dealing with. So, with Matt, is it a how can we get you moving better? Is it a muscle performance problem? Is it a tolerance to load? Is it ankle mobility that contributes to it? But it sounds like just based on your background, you can layer in a lot more of the like physiology, the psychology of coaching, and understanding how that competitive athlete needs to function and all that type of stuff. And man, I'm listening to you talk, and should have brought a notepad to take notes of like, this is the stuff that I need to.
Well, I think
with.
Matt's right that it does take a village, and even the rehabbing injured runners course that I did with Kyle. I was Kyle's student first. In that course, talk about how just dealing with injuries, right? Like injuries are so multifactorial, and athletes, if an injury is multifactorial, where there's psychological components, diet components, sleep components, stress components, training load, well, you have people in all of those spaces to advise and be experts on that. Now, as an endurance coach, you're kind of triaging a little bit of everything. And as soon as something gets to be a little more than what I can provide to that athlete at the time, like you said, I'm in Ponchatoula, I can't get my hands on, Matt's ankle right away. So in those instances, I have to have other providers that I can lean on or send people to kind of, make sure that athlete is getting the help that they need. But when things are multifactorial, I mean, I don't think it's outside of the space of, let's just say, like physical therapists to advise on things like stress and nutrition. And, in the clinic, as a physical therapist, if I'm treating a patient, I often sometimes do put on my coaching hat, and we start talking about motivation, we start talking about psychology and sleep and all those things, because injuries are so complex, but then so is performance, and they kind of go hand in hand. So,
yeah, I do think that I was having a conversation with Todd Lane the other day about just
shout out to Coach Todd.
What's that?
Shout out to Coach Todd.
Shout out to Coach Todd.
Shout out to Coach Todd.
The jumpers coach at LSU, Coach
Yes.
Todd Lane, my arch nemesis.
Well, go ahead, Kyle.
He can't outsprint me on the bike. That's facts.
What were you talking to Coach?
So, anyways, he was just talking about coaching. I forgot what he was talking about, but we're talking about coaching, and it's I get to travel a little bit with LSU's team, and it's so fun to just like watch the coaches interact with their athletes. And their relationship is a really special one. But I think it's something that I've been reflecting on recently, is that a lot of my role whenever I'm with LSU we were at SEC championships last week, I get the athletes on a treatment table an hour before their event. There's nothing I was taught in physical therapy school that prepares you for like this person's about to be competing for an SEC championship, which seems like a pretty big deal to me. And they're looking at me like, I'm not really feeling perfect in this area. What can I do to make that feel better?
In an hour.
I get 10 minutes with them. I get 10 minutes with them. And what I've kind of thought about recently, been reflecting on, and just observing the coaches, is the physical side of things is just a piece of the puzzle. There's nothing I can do in 10 minutes that is going to 100% resolve or even probably make that problem feel a whole lot better. But if I can do just enough to kind of bolster the psychology, get them feeling better enough, get them to trust their body, whatever. There's some athletic trainers that'll put some tape on whatever. And a lot of times, like in PT school, we kind of poo-poo some of the passive stuff. Putting tape on something. Well, I mean, if you want to put tape on it, fine. But like in those situations, that's the most important thing. But anyways, the point being is that the psychology of treating the person in front of you or dealing with the person in front of you, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a patient, whether it's a client, whatever else, is just understanding the psychology of the situation, I think, is something that coaches do really well. That if I'm reflecting as a physical therapist, that's something that doesn't come as naturally to me that I need to learn about. So,
I got to hit on that point, and I'm going to try not to get emotional with this, but thinking about you and Dr. Burnham, I sacrificed so much during that year training for that Ironman. I missed my best friend, who I'm going to be in his wedding as his best man here in 2 months' time. Missed his proposal, missed so many things, just dedicated so much. And when I had that crash 8 days before the race, separated the shoulder, I was freaking out. I called you on the weekend, like, I know we had a relationship where we were texting, but I didn't want to cross that boundary of your personal time, but I just didn't know what to do. And I was with Dustin at that time, and you just were like, hey, we're going to get you in on Monday. We'll assess everything. Dustin had taken me to the emergency room. Nothing's broken. There's a definite gap in a separation between your collarbone and the other bone. But you and Dr. Burnham, nobody was pessimistic. Dr. Burnham was like, never know what could happen in 7 days. I don't know, man. Like, he just left the door open for my mind to work a way to figure it out, right? And that kind of speaks to that psychology. Like, there's nothing that I could have done. I mean, other than I just tried to keep my, arm moving. I knew I was going to have a wetsuit on. It was going to keep it kind of tight, and I was going to be able to float and not drown. But I wasn't going to be able to swim right. But what y'all didn't do was defeat me mentally by even giving me the option to not make an attempt at it. And so I'm very, very thankful to both of you and to Dr. Burnham for that, because I was able to accomplish something. And it made for a kick-ass story afterwards. Like, I swam this shit with a separated shoulder.
Oh, yeah. What, what's really easy to do in 10 minutes?
What's that?
Is to just kill someone's spirit and to make them feel discouraged. It's really hard to make someone feel ready to go in 10 minutes. But like you said, maybe the answer is, hey, just leave the door open. Yeah. Just make sure you don't shut it down or whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, that's so important with, like, who you surround yourself with in life. Like, the people, your colleagues, who you work with, who you get intimate, who you allow into your inner circles in business and in work. Just keeping those people around you who are positive and optimistic. It never serves to be pessimistic. You can't tell me, I don't care if, like, you're shorting a stock or just whatever. Like, I've always thought, how can I get it done? Like, there's a problem in front of me. How can I solve it? Like, I've got to expend every option before I give up. And I don't give up easily. I don't quit on anything. The last thing I quit was, I think, band in, like, the 6th grade because I wanted to be back in PE. That was it. Like, that's the last thing I quit in my life. And so I think just putting people around you who don't allow you to quit, who just keep the door open. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just being cautiously optimistic is generally a good approach in rehab and in athletics. I mean, obviously, like, you want to make sure that it's safe, right? And I think that's the role of your PTs and healthcare providers, is to just can answer some of those simple questions. Like, yeah, I remember being with you that day in the urgent care, and they x-rayed your shoulder, and I think I was, like, maybe doing a little bit more of the interpretation than, the nurse that was in there, which, they do everything.
She was a weekend warrior.
They're doing their best, but I obviously look at, a lot more orthopedic x-rays, so I'm like, I think it's fine. It's like, it's not broken. So just being cautiously optimistic can get you pretty far. Obviously, in the space of endurance, there is overuse injuries. There are red flags. There are a lot of scenarios where you do kind of have to pull it back a little bit. But even you talk about, like, worst case scenarios. If you're training for an Ironman, like, let's just say you get one of the worst injuries that could face a runner is, like, a stress fracture, right? Because that just takes you out, of being able to run.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take you out from being productive, right? And few injuries take you out from being productive. I mean, even if you literally can't move, you can still learn. You could still read a book. You can still work on your mindset. There's always ways to be productive and positive, even if, things are not going your way, or things start to come out of control, or you make a mistake, or you get an injury. There's always a way to be productive.
You can always swim more.
You could always swim more.
Dude,
that is correct.
That's a triathlete thing. It's like, man, I will run, I will cycle, I will put myself through hell. Just don't make me swim anymore, because I'm not fast at swimming, and I hate it. I love swimming. I will be the best swimmer ever one day.
Yeah, no, that's but that's just a good life lesson, right? Is to just not dwell on bad things that happen or adversity, because nobody gets to an Ironman, nobody gets to life, nobody gets through business or anything worth doing without setbacks and adversity.
Yeah.
Right. So, it says more about you on how do you respond when those things happen, in determining your success going forward and how much growth you're going to have, right? If you catastrophize, or you do surround yourself with other people who catastrophize, or use negative language, and I cringe, and it hurts me to see examples where, there may be other PTs that use negative language or no-CBIC language where they kind of catastrophize a little bit. That's one of the worst things that I think could happen, or a coach that catastrophizes. So, I think being cautiously optimistic, and staying positive, surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you move things forward, even when things are hard or not going your way. That's a really, really key trait of getting better as an athlete or a person, or
You just don't learn anything when things are going smoothly. Like, that ego starts to creep in. Like, it's all me.
You don't
It's
learn
like,
from success.
you don't learn from success. Like,
Yeah.
you learn from adversity or failure or struggle.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. So I came up with this. There's this kind of mantra that I've been telling myself a little bit recently. Is this 3 words, 3-word mantra is pride poisons progress.
I like
Meaning,
that.
as soon as I feel pride in this situation, I'm poisoning any progress that I'm making. And a lot of it's like with interpersonal stuff. If I become prideful that, so a good example is like in physical therapy, or let's say in physical therapy. Or in fitness, we can say too. If I can run a 5-minute mile today, but I don't do anything, if I get comfortable, if I rest on my laurels and I'm like, I can run a 5-minute mile, well then guess what? Tomorrow I can't run that 5-minute mile. Or in a week, if I'm not making progress towards that thing, then I can't run that 5-minute mile. I don't know if that made any sense the way that I said that. And professionally in physical therapy, it's they talk about the practice of medicine. I like to make this joke in the clinic, and I kind of mean it. It's a half truth, but it's a half truth for sure. Is that none of us really know what we're doing. We're all just kind of taking guesses and making educated guesses and trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And in my career, I find that if I'm not getting better, I'm getting worse. And I think there's something about feeling pride that, like, oh yes, I've completed this certification, that a lot of times makes you want to stagnate and stop doing things to get better, stop doing education and stuff like that. And the moment that I feel that pride, and again, that like I want to rest on my laurels, then it poisons any progress that I'm making, then I'm going to get worse. And I want to say one more thing is about this idea too that I thought about is, have you ever read the book? It's called Man's Search for Meaning. It's by a guy, Viktor Frankl.
It sounds so familiar, and I've read so many like self-development and business books. It's either on my bookshelf to be read, or I think I have Man's Search for Meaning.
It's a little bit older. So this guy, he's a psychiatrist.
I swear I might have read it like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, he's a Jewish psychiatrist that was actually in a concentration camp. He was in like the worst of the worst concentration camps in World War II. And he had, I think before he went to the concentration camp, he had come up with this kind of philosophy or this way of thinking about psychiatry called logotherapy. But anyways, he goes into this concentration camp and he just kind of describes his experience, but then he talks about it from his like psychiatric perspective. And one of the key points that he makes is that you can't have meaning in life if you don't have suffering. And then also he says that he's experienced the worst of the worst in the world, which is to be basically in a selection where this person's going to a kill chamber, this person's going to a work camp. Regardless of the situation, it's terrible. And he says at no point in anyone's life do you ever completely lose freedom. Even though he's in this prison, he hasn't lost freedom in each moment. So when you face these hardships, you have the freedom to choose your perspective and like what your next step is going to be. You have the freedom to choose to use that hardship as an opportunity to grow and to learn. You have the freedom to choose to be gracious in whatever circumstance and situation, to be kind to others, all these types of things. And so the point being is, you crash your bike, you're a couple of weeks out from an Ironman. You can either
8 days.
Yeah. 8 days. So
I wish I had a couple weeks.
So you can either just let that kill your spirit altogether, or you can say, what's something I can do today to get better, which is exactly what you did. If you get a bone stress injury or something like that, you can say, well, I'm just going to eat chips on the couch for the next 2 months because I'm depressed and I'm not allowed to put weight on my foot. But then it sets you back even more, and you've missed the opportunity to learn how to swim or to get into the weight room and, work on getting stronger, to work on movement coordination, to really lean into learning something new. Anyways.
Or learn some of
No, that's-
factors behind how you got that injury in the first place.
Exactly. To go to the go to the doctor and deal with
I mean,
all
I'll
that
argue
stuff.
that's the only lens or frame to view life through. That's the only one that is truly serving. I go back to it. It doesn't pay to be a pessimist. What is this? What is this trying to teach me? What can I learn about myself? What can I learn about the situation? How can I apply something moving forward? I love that. I love that.
It's a great book.
And if I hadn't read it, and if it's not on my read, I literally have like a huge bookshelf at my house in my little personal office. It's books that I've heard like this that I'll order today and put it on my reading, like to read, and then my completed shelf. So
Yeah, it's really good.
absolutely. What's some books that have impacted you, Dustin? What are you reading?
Right now, I'm reading a book called The Checklist Manifesto.
Oh, dude, that's a great one.
Have you heard of that one?
I read about half of it actually. I didn't.
Yeah,
finish it.
yeah.
No, I
So
finished it, I think, actually.
it's a book. It's written by a surgeon, and they talk about how in surgery or any setting where you've got really high stakes, complex operations going on, and in surgery, like there's a million things that have to be done, and the consequences for getting any one single little thing wrong are pretty high.
Yeah.
Like, how are surgical instruments left in someone's body after surgery? Like, it seems so obvious to us that, like, how does that happen? But the answer is like, well, because they have a million other things that they have to think about at any one given time doing this highly complex thing. Another example they use is like building skyscrapers. Like, imagine all of the things and people involved and steps involved in building a skyscraper. Like, how is that managed? And the book kind of gets that. It's exactly what it sounds like. It gets use a checklist, like something as simple as use a checklist, and it goes with the ego thing, right? Of kind of leaving your ego at the door. One of the reasons why surgeons would kind of scoff at this idea of like, oh, I don't need a checklist. I went to medical school I've been doing surgery I don't need a checklist. But it's
Finish. I have to speak on this from one of my business perspectives. Continue though.
right. Well, but that's the idea is no, you're never too good or too smart or beyond the help of something as simple as a checklist just to make sure you're getting basic steps wrong. And it's acknowledging how complex the thing that you're trying to do is, and that, hey, you're never beyond just kind of going back to the basic steps and making sure that you're just being thorough in this really complex thing that you're trying to do.
Well, that goes back to first principles too. You're talking about when you're coaching someone for an Ironman, go back to what needs to happen to get to the finish line, and so that's exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. It just reminds me. That was something that I realized several years into my insurance career and my business. I was taught by an amazing guy who, hey, when we go and we meet these people in their homes, like, you're not getting to business first. Here's how you're going to go about things. You're going to get to know them, find some common ground. You're never talking business first. Build a relationship, build some rapport. Then you want to understand what it is that they have, help and make sure that they fully understand that policy, and then what it is that they're looking for. And then you educate them on what you have and if that is in line with what they need. And so it was this, steps and processes. And he said, you will prevent them from having any type of buyer's remorse. You won't miss anything, but you got to follow this process. And I got so good at it. I mean, I would have people that just from the rapport building just were like, where do I sign? But I still had to take them through that process. And I got really good at it. And at probably 3 or 4 years in, I felt myself starting to rush through things because I'm like, I got this. I can take care of them. I know what they need. Like, I'm so good at this. And I said, wait a minute, I got to slow down, take a step back, get back to this process and making sure that I'm hitting every single step to give them that great experience that I've given the previous customers.
Consistently.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
Consistently.
something big on how I run my real estate business as well. I mean, I ascribe to ninja selling, which is a proven system and process for home buying and home selling, and it's extremely thorough. I've gone to multiple workshops and installations, investing in myself and being the best I can be in that space as well.
I have another mentor. His name's Mark Gutierrez. He actually did some like formal mentorship stuff through this program that I did to specialize in a certain area of physical therapy. But one of the things that I heard from him first, and it's kind of the philosophy of some of the education program underneath Ochsner, is that experts are people who do the ordinary things extraordinarily well. And the expert isn't the person that has the fancy new thing.
Say that again. Look directly into that camera when you say it.
All right. So I heard from Mark Gutierrez that experts are people that do ordinary things extraordinarily well.
I love it.
And so the idea being that don't worry about doing the fancy thing. A lot of times the things that you're going to miss in physical therapy in particular, but it probably applies to a lot of other things, is just the basics. If you get ahead of yourself, if you kind of, in the coaching realm, I'm sure if you see something on Instagram, the only thing I know about cycling is that there's this guy that said you got to do a lot of zone 2 training. And so if I get on the bike and I only do zone 2 training, then I'm missing tons and tons of basics as it pertains to cycling, because that's the only thing I know. But it's the thing that's touted on social media or whatever else. And so that's what I'm going to fixate on.
Right.
As a non-expert. But you as an expert, you have a lot of this, and I can hear it just from you talking, is you have a lot of this nuance of like, well, in this situation, it's this, and let's just boil it down to the basics, and just, from my experience, I know these things.
You've heard of the KISS principle.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Checklist Manifesto. That was a good book. It's been a few years since I read that one.
Yeah.
So what do you guys, Kyle, tell us a little bit about what you're doing outside of Ochsner. What are some of the things you spend time with your family? I know you got a wife and 2 children, 2 sons.
Yeah. What do I do outside of work? Man, it's pretty ordinary. I do the LSU stuff. Tonight I'm going to LSU's training room, and I'm gonna just
outside of work, Kyle.
Well, you said outside of Ochsner. This isn't an Ochsner situation. Anyways, so I try to be up at 4:45 in the morning every morning to get my workout in. I'm only good for about 30 minutes a morning, but usually it's 30 good minutes. I'm trying to get some interval workouts in, some strength training in, try to make it good quality stuff. And then, hustle at work all day. And then by the time I get home, I feel like I have to bring intensity in the way that I relax with my wife every evening. And so I try to make sure that we have I try to do it. I'm definitely imperfect. I'm probably, less than 50% of the time, but I try to make sure that every night we have a good 30 minutes or an hour where we're just watching a show or hanging out, just talking, drinking a cup of tea, this type of stuff. And I think that's something that my wife has taught me, is that she really prioritizes our relationship and our marriage. And I think the same degree of intensity that sometimes I bring into work stuff, into working out, into this and that, I need to bring that same degree of intensity with the non-intensity of just like being in a relationship.
My wife is gonna love this section of the episode when she hears this. I got some work to do.
You gotta be, you gotta be careful getting your wife to talk to my wife ever, because my wife.
We're getting them together. We're gonna do dinner soon.
Okay,
We're gonna do dinner soon. Dustin,
Outside of work, so I last night actually we drove all the way down to Chalmette, where I'm from. To go to my 10-year-old nephew's soccer game. He's in soccer season right now. So we don't have kids, but I have a 10-year-old and a 10-year-old nephew and a 3-year-old niece. And I enjoy spending time with them so much. I get to be the fun uncle. I'm a funkle,
Nice.
right? So I get to run around with them and just kind of get to play with them. I get to do all the fun stuff and none of the hard parent stuff. It's a great space to exist in. So really enjoy spending time, with them and my family. Also, Mary Beth and I, my wife, are involved in a local volunteer organization in Ponchatoula called the Ponchatoula JCs. They're the Junior Chamber of Commerce. It's a leadership organization for people 18 to 40 years old, and it's just like professional development. We work on it's a 501 nonprofit organization, work on a lot of community projects. The big project that we have right now is we're raising $800,000 for a community access playground. So it's basically to build a playground for kids with disabilities that's situated in such a way that you can have wheelchair access. So it's an all access playground that's going to be built in Ponchatoula, and we're nearly there with raising money for that. But one of the projects that I'm involved in to help raise money for this playground is the Strawberry Strut 5K, 10K.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew. You've been to the Strut, but I don't know if you knew.
What do you mean I've been to the Strut? I won first place in my age group, first ever race I ran. Tell the truth, Dustin.
Let's go.
That's very impressive.
Would you? No, I gotta say this. So that was early in the training, and I did not run a fast 5K. And I remember telling you this. I left the race because my wife, we had to get Jackson back to the house. You hit me up. You're like, "Hey, dude, you won your age group.
Oh, yeah, that's
Came out
right.
first."
I have your medal.
And then I told Kyle, I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know, Kyle. Like, I think everybody else ran the 10K." And he goes, "We call that strategy, my friend." He's like, "That's strategy."
So anyway, so the Strawberry Strut, like I kind of took over as the race director for that, and that will be April 12th, weekend of Strawberry Festival. Shout out.
You do a ton.
Do the Strawberry. Come to the Strawberry Strut.
Dustin's company DVA does a ton with sponsoring a lot of the local triathlon events, running events. I mean,
yes, DV8 is also a sponsor of the Strut.
Rouge Roubaix, we just finished up the gravel.
That's right. We just finished Rouge Roubaix this past weekend.
It was a new level of pain for me and endurance, and
yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I learned a lot about myself
got,
and life on that ride. Like, it was incredible.
You've got Louisiana Tri coming up. DV8's a sponsor of that. So a lot of good stuff. It's all part of being able to support the causes that I really believe in. My work with the JCs is about community involvement and bringing movement and something that's genuinely good and healthy for people to my community. When it comes to sponsoring races, that's hitting my competitive side. I try to race every race that I sponsor too, because they give you the free entry. So it's, you might as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that, since I started Deviate, that has, hit me on an emotional level is I have put on so many races in my life. I've gone to Jenny Peters at Varsity Sports to sponsor the races and support the events that I've put on for so long, that now that I have this business and I'm in a position to return the favor and do a cash sponsorship of a race to ensure its longevity and support that event, and then get all my athletes to go to that event. That's something that I really enjoy, and I'm very proud to continue that on and give back to the sport that's given me so much.
We got to get this bitch right here in some races, dude, because he can fly.
You got to give him a bicycle.
He wants to do all these tests. He does all these tests in non-race settings. He gets no trophies, no medals. I know he's talking about not letting his pride get in the way, but we need to get you on a podium someplace soon.
I would love to.
Like,
dude, I'm trying to. I'm gonna do that for
trying, or we're doing or not doing. We don't try anything.
We can get you a bike, dude.
I always try.
Yeah, I got him a bike. You remember that piece of shit white bike? He has it.
You have Matt's old piece of shit bike?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my
Oh
God,
man,
dude. We got. That is wild.
I'll race you.
Come to Ponchatoula, I'll fit you on it.
Yeah, fit him up.
Yeah, I think
Let's
it's too big.
go,
It
bro.
might be a little too big. But
No,
Well, that can be.
that bike was small for me, and you're what, 6'1", 6'2"?
We can make it work.
Just
Yeah,
6 foot, yeah.
Dustin is a master
work
fitter, bike fitter.
We can work to some magic.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, I'll have to see it. I'll have to check that out. I'd
You
like
have to come. You have to come.
Yeah, definitely.
Deviate Studios #
DVA Studio. So how can people find you, Kyle? Where can they find you at?
I don't really have an online presence. I do have an Instagram account. If you just look up Kyle Bramley on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. You can always reach out on those. I'll see the messages, but I don't really post anything.
How can people find you? How can they schedule appointments to see you? People are trying to get back to sport. People are dealing with issues, runners. I mean, Kyle treats a multitude of different injuries. He's an expert with running injuries, but a lot of other stuff as well. Like, how can they get in to see you?
Yeah. So one way is through, if you have My Chart or My Oshner, you can schedule directly with the physical therapist on the My Oshner app. My name's on there. You can also talk to your doctor and let them know that you want to schedule with Kyle Bramley over at Oshner on Burbank. That's one way. You can also send me an email. kyle.bramley@oshner.org is my email. I'll see that, and I can help facilitate things there. And then if you look up Oshner on Burbank and find our phone number, if you call our front desk, you can schedule an appointment. And by the way, for what it's worth, if you want to schedule a physical therapy appointment, you do not need to get a doctor's referral first. You can come straight to see a physical therapist.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yep. So how can people find you, Dustin?
A few ways. So you can check us out on the
Go to
website.
any local race.
Deviatephysio.com is the website. Deviate Physio on Instagram, Facebook. You can email me, deviatephysio@gmail.com. Plenty of ways to contact me. If you're dealing with an injury, you can also see me directly. You can set up a consult for, an injury, or if you're thinking about coaching, or you want to schedule a bike fit or a run analysis, or just come buy a gel.
Just come buy a gel.
Uh,
Buy a Deviate sticker.
Yeah, come get a sticker. Deviate just picked up Precision Fuel and Hydration. So it's a pretty big nutrition brand. We just kind of launched that this week. So plenty of ways to get in touch and plenty of ways to get involved.
Well, absolutely. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on this and doing this with me. You guys are going to be back on at some point, probably individually, maybe as a panel. We might get Dr. Burnham in here, maybe get Patrick Cook in here, and let everybody nerd out about the health and science behind everything. And I'll just observe, kind of guide the conversation, what I can contribute, not much. But no, thanks again. It was a pleasure. That's a wrap, everybody. We'll see you for next week's episode.
Thanks for having us.
This was fun.